Now, on our quest to make sure the user has a good password, we're going to force them to have a capital letter. It doubles the amount of characters that someone just trying to hack into your account is going to have to try, and so it makes it really, really useful for password security. Now, we could have one single while loop with everything in it, but just to keeping this a little bit easier to read, as it's the first time we're doing it, we're going to have a separate while loop for each one. So all I've done is I've changed that print statement, just so it just says password pass first check, so it's a little bit more descriptive for the user. Now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to create a Boolean variable at the top. So I'm going to call this one password as capital. And I'm going to set that one to false again. So we're going to assume it doesn't have a capital letter. And we're going to continue while password has capital equals false. So it's going to check that it has a capital letter. So we've started with false, and so it's going to force us to check at least once. Now, this is really easy to do, but you do have to check it character by character. Now, we're going to do that by using a for loop. Now, normally, a for loop is your count control loop. So it runs 4 times, 5 times, the exact amount of times you want to run. In Python, though, it actually just runs through a string or a list. So for character in our password, so password on. So what that does is the first time you go through your loop, character has a value of the first letter of your password. Second time it loops, character is going to be your second letter, and then character will be the third letter, all the way till the end. So we're going to check that, and we're going to check if that character is actually a capital. Now, we're going to use a string method, which is just basically a function, but you have to use the dot notation because it can only be used on strings. And so we're going to use that function, that method, is upper. So we're going to have to make sure we have that open and close brackets. And what that does is it returns true if it's a uppercase letter and false if it's not. So we're going to check if that value is true. If it is true, password as capital, we're going to set it to true. Yet it has at least one capital letter. Now, after that for loop is done checking every single letter, we then need to actually check, did we find at least one of them? Because we need to actually prompt them to re-enter their password if they didn't. So if we go into this while loop here, we then check again if our password has capital is true. We can give them the feedback that their password has been accepted. So I'm going to grab that print again. So password pass second check. And an else statement, prompting them to enter your own password if it didn't pass that first check. So now, in this while loop that we've just created, it then checks that it has at least one password, or one capital letter. Now there's a logical error in this code, and we're going to see if you can spot it through testing your program. But at the moment, if we run it, you'll see, I'll use LTO as a password, it does check that it has at least 6 letters, and it does check, it keeps going, because we didn't give that feedback if it didn't have a capital letter. But it will keep going until we actually enter at least one capital letter. So always remember, before you prompt them to enter your own password, you do want to have that that feedback, that print statement, that actually tells them that they need capital. Otherwise, they're just going to get prompted to re-enter their password, and it's not going to work.